Hello and welcome to a new edition of DWTV's business magazine Made in Germany. I'm Monica Jones, and as you might have noticed, we're coming to you from our brand new studio. Apart from the new look, we also have new topics for you. So let's have a look at today's agenda. Rescue operators. Danish emergency services provider Falcksets his eyes on Germany. Sustainable capitalism. Companies that put social responsibility before profit. And art patron, Berlin businessman Jörg Woltmann rescues the city's oldest enterprise. And we start with another big company that almost didn't make it through the financial crisis. 1 year ago, German computer chip producer Infinion stood at the brink of bankruptcy. Its shares plummeted within months from €5.40 in August 2008 to an alarmingly meager 38 cents in spring 2009. Today, however, Infinion shares are back where they were in August 2008, if not even better. So what happened? For one, Infinion had to let go of its subsidiary Qimonda, slashing 4,000 jobs. But the move helped save the company and thousands of other jobs around the world. In cooperation with Germany's leading financial daily Handelsblatt, we take a closer look at the slimmer but yet again successful Infinion.
If it were up to Robbie, the chip factory would be out of bounds for people. Robbie checks whether his human colleagues are bringing too much humidity, dust or other contaminants in with them. Potential risks that Infinion cannot afford to let endanger its painstaking operations.
Here in Dresden, we tend to have the more complicated production processes. That means at least 500 to 700 individual steps. For all the modern chips that people need for energy-saving control units and the like, the figure can rise up to 1,200.
1,200 separate operations on one single wafer, a round slice of silicon that serves as a platform for chip production. Each can yield up to 70,000 chips. Different materials are applied layer by layer: silicon, glass, aluminum, and copper. Wafers typically remain in the manufacturing process for at least a month. In the case of more complex products, 10 weeks. Infinion is one of the few silicon chip manufacturers in Europe, and it's only recently recovered from a serious crisis. The firm's Dresden plant alone laid off 4,000 workers in the wake of intense global competition. Infinion eventually sold off its memory chip division. CEO Peter Bauer is now focusing on products like high-performance chips for mini-computers and other popular innovations. Bauer has his eyes on growing demand in Asia. The company already makes half of its turnover on the continent.
The core issues for our business are energy efficiency, communication and security. And we're seeing a significant upswing in all three. Energy efficiency is being driven by demand for energy-saving products, from power packs to engines and cars. On the communication front, low-price mobile phones from Asia are enjoying a boom. So are smartphones.
The auto industry is Infinion's biggest customer. The average new car is now fitted with 100 chips, worth a total of around €240.
Cars live from innovation. Think of what will make a car attractive in the future. Not just its handling, but also its fuel consumption, safety features, and low emissions. All of those are driven by innovations in the chip sector.
And innovation is the name of the game at the nearby research lab for electric cars. Modules like this promise longer battery life. The department has yet to make Infinion any money. But the company is confident that electric cars are the future.
An electronic car can have 3 times as many electronic components as a conventional one. That means 3 times more turnover for us.
This special sector won't be up and running for another 10 years. But the general demand for chips is back on track. Infinion's employees are working full-time again, and the company is also hiring again. 300 have been employed in Dresden. The company is also boosting production capacity by a quarter, a record expansion in the company's history. The new machines and other facilities will cost 40 million euros, a clear indication that Infinion believes it has weathered the storm of recent years.
For more on the story, you can visit our very own website at dwworld.de or go to the website of Germany's leading business daily at handelsblatt.com. Accepting change is often difficult, especially when it comes to services which could save our lives. Here in Germany, 90% of medical emergency services are covered by non-profit organizations like the German Red Cross. There are some private companies too, but they remain the exception, up until now that is, because a new ruling by the European Court of Justice could open up this lucrative market worth some 2 billion euros in Germany to both national and international competition. Leading the pack is the Danish company Falck, Europe's largest private provider of medical emergency services. It has already captured the market in Denmark, so we headed for the Danish capital, Copenhagen, to watch Falck Emergency Services in action.
An emergency call in Copenhagen. The rescue paramedics from Falck need to free a man trapped in a car. The fire department has to break open the car. It takes several minutes before the patient can be treated. But this was not for real, just the regular monthly drill. The Falck company has been in the emergency service business for over a century.
People say, let's call Falck if they encounter a problem, if somebody's injured. So this is just a normal way of life in Denmark. They don't see us as a private profit-gaining company. We are, yes, but people don't see us that way.
Falck has 16,000 employees. Its turnover from emergency medical services is almost €500 million a year. Falck is the market leader in Denmark. It has also opened branches elsewhere in Europe, most recently in Romania. And now CEO Allan Søgaard Larsen wants to expand into Germany.
Well, if you look at Germany for us from a market perspective, it's a very big market. There's 80 million people. There's more than 5,000 ambulances in operation. And if just 10% of that was out for tender, it would be a huge market for us.
But in much of Germany, there is no free market for emergency first aid services. Falck's Germany representative visits the industry's trade fair in Leipzig, on the lookout for customers. Falck has yet to crack the German market. 90% of the services in question are carried out here by non-profit associations like the German Red Cross. Now the European Court of Justice has ruled that competition be allowed. Falck expects communities to begin asking for bids to provide emergency services, and it plans to apply. Competition could reduce insurance company expenses and premiums.
Of course, we believe that our experience and expertise from working in 7 countries and our size make us more cost-effective and economic.
The German Red Cross denies that it is less cost-effective. It is the leading provider of emergency medical services in Germany. Now it fears competition from private firms.
They want to replace the non-profit approach that we work in with a profit-oriented approach. This will endanger not just the quality of emergency rescue services, but the entire system.
The overall system of emergency services in Germany is not very transparent. It's a €2 billion market, but private companies have almost no share in this. Most jobs go directly to the traditional partners like the Red Cross. For the professional rescue workers at Falck headquarters in Copenhagen, muddied market structures are nothing new. The company met with resistance when it expanded into Sweden and Poland as well. But it ultimately persevered.
Well, the way it works is that once you are there and once you provide services that are of very good quality at a acceptable and obviously a very competitive price, then you become wanted. And, the authorities will actually welcome you in.
Denmark itself is the best example. Here, too, it took a long time before Falck was accepted. And today, the company has 450 rescue vehicles in action every day there.
The financial crisis revealed the limitations of our market economy and the capitalist model. But what alternatives do we have? Well, today we start a new series in which we profile companies that are doing things differently. Take the Regionalwert AG, for example. Based in Eichstätten in southwest Germany, this publicly owned company helps small farmers make the transition from conventional to organic farming. The investors are largely local people who are motivated less by profits than the desire to preserve regional economic structures through sustainable farming.
This crop would never have been grown if these two men hadn't met. Kerstin Schweizer heads an unusual company called Regionalwert. It invests in young farmers who would otherwise have no chance. Joel Siegel received a €20,000 loan from the company for his fruit farm.
Regionalwert secured my livelihood because I wouldn't have gotten a loan from a bank. This is because I'm new to the business and because my own capital was exhausted in the middle of last year.
In exchange, Regionalwert expects its farmers to switch to green farming practices, for example, using insect traps instead of insecticides. The CEO of Regionalwert also expects his business partners to provide their workers with long-term contracts and welfare benefits. Their wage is €6 per hour net. That's above the norm for the agricultural sector. But it's a potential burden for the farmers in question because of rivals that pay workers less.
The point is to get a positive development going, because the general trend has been towards poorer conditions and even lower wages. We want to try to turn that around. It's a rocky path, but we have to begin somewhere.
Kerstin Schweizer has invested a total of €1.7 million of his company's money in 9 ecological farms. He believes farming in harmony with nature is the only way the farmers can operate sustainably in the region. His struggle is a lonely one. Regionalwert cannot afford to hire staff, but he's successfully continuing to raise investment funds. And every day he receives queries from potential shareholders.
I think that in the medium term we will have to raise €5 to 10 million to ensure the company has enough substance.
Regionalwert holds a stockholders meeting once a year.
At about 2:30 we'll begin registration for the actual meeting.
The company has about 500 stockholders who have bought an average of €1,000 in stock. They all know that Regionalwert could go broke. And few of them expect to make a profit anyway.
Yes, we regard it as a kind of gift. That's always the question, what you do with your money, how do you spend it? Sure, I could have bought each of my grandchildren a car, and they would have accepted it. But there's no need for that. In fact, we want to set an example for our grandchildren. We want them to see that you have to set priorities.
We aren't interested in just putting our money somewhere where it earns high interest. We're more interested in putting our money where it makes sense in a broader context.
What really convinces me about this approach is that here we are investing in ecological agriculture, and regionally. We live in Freiburg, and we always pay attention to what we buy and where it comes from.
Kaufen schon seit langer Zeit eigentlich oder achten auf das, was wir kaufen und woher es kommt.
The shareholders aren't pressuring the young farmers to squeeze as much profit as possible from their land. They want the farms to be environmentally sound and socially responsible and preserve the landscape's diversity.
Running that kind of operation and with these ideas requires a certain idealism. There are many things you do every day that won't earn you any money, but where it's just better to do them differently.
Farmer Joel Siegel currently lives from his girlfriend's income, and he'll probably have to do so next year as well, until his little fruit farm starts turning a profit.
And for more, I'm joined now by Felix Oldenburg, Country Director of Ashoka, Germany. Now, first of all, you have to explain the name. Ashoka is the name of an Indian emperor, the one that spread Buddhism in India. His symbol, the wheel, is still part of the Indian national flag. How does all of that relate to your organization?
Well, in fact, Ashoka was started in India 30 years ago. And the Ashoka name means in Sanskrit, overcoming obstacles. And 30 years later, the idea of Ashoka and the organization has spread to 70 countries.
And now this idea, or part of the idea, is to support projects like the one we've just seen in this report. What exactly do you do? How does it work?
Well, it's like a high-tech fund for the social sector, really. We find projects with great ideas to solve societal problems in an early stage of their development, just at the stage where it will be decided whether they stay local or whether they indeed go on to transform society and solve a problem large scale.
And what is it? Do you support both those that want to stay local and those that want to expand, or do you differentiate here?
Now, for us, the concept of the social entrepreneur really is the person who not only has a great idea, but will change the world no matter what.
And how do you find them? Do they apply, or does somebody ring you and say, this company is really good?
This is a long and very intensive search process, not unlike venture capital, really. So we go out, find these people, and often after many months of interviews and due diligence, when we are convinced they will go on to change the world, we go and help them financially and with all sorts of other support to go on and do just that.
What's necessary to convince you?
Oh, you have to have a new idea that can solve a problem. And you have to have the energy and the creativity to see it through. We're also looking for a high degree of ethical fiber. We have to trust that this person will focus on the problem first and on own interests second.
And how many such companies do exist so far?
We have found 2,500 such Ashoka fellows.
Over those 30 years?
Over those 30 years. So you can, think of it as a universe of ideas that could be replicated elsewhere in the world to solve the world's toughest problems.
Now, that sounds a bit like the ideal world. I mean, the bottom line is, are such companies still profitable?
Well, if you have an idea to change the world and solve a social problem, you're going to be much faster if you are not relying on small grants or on the government. So if you can find that idea and implement it in such a way that it can grow out of itself, it's going to be much more powerful.
And in the meantime, you finance these companies, because somehow you have to pay for it.
For a while we do, but we also have a defined exit, so we make sure that these entrepreneurs really connect to each other and to the business sector and to others in the social sector to do large-scale change.
And of course, we've just seen that there are private investors giving money to a project like Regionalwert AG. If I'm interested in supporting such a company, how do I find out about it?
Well, you could go on the Ashoka homepage, but really there are many. This is a big trend. The people see the traditional boundaries of responsibility between the state and the social sector break down and become much more interested in becoming change makers themselves.
Okay, Felix Oldenburg, thank you very much for joining us. Well, it looks like business and social responsibility don't have to be worlds apart. What do you think? Here's our new question of the week. What would you change in how the world does business? Tell us. Just go to our website at dwworld.de/English/Made in Germany. Fill out our online questionnaire and you'll automatically qualify for our next draw, which is coming up at the end of the month. And the prize is this DVD. It's called German Family Business. And we look forward to hearing from you. Well, last week we wanted to know, would you go abroad for a job? Yes, of course, says Gabriela Benavides Montenegro, who wrote us from Colombia, and she would love to work, study or just travel abroad because going abroad improves your view of the world. Thanks, Gabriela, and I'm with you all the way. Well, to some people, there's simply no place like home, and Jörg Woltmann, one of the best-known entrepreneurs in Berlin, certainly belongs to that category of home-loving people. His heart beats for the German capital, including its history and all that is associated with it. So when a few years ago the tradition-laden Berlin porcelain maker, the Königliche Porzellan Manufaktur.A, KPM, was on the brink of bankruptcy, Jörg Woltmann bought it to preserve its rich heritage of craftsmanship.
Jörg Woltmann is a banker by profession. For the past 3 years, he's also owned the Königliche Porzellan Manufaktur. For 249 years, everything here at Berlin's royal porcelain manufacturer has been painstakingly handcrafted, but the dividends have often been modest.
There's more to life than just earning money. Preserving a cultural institution can provide an incentive for an entrepreneur to achieve something that's otherwise hard to achieve, and that many people probably wouldn't do at all.
Woltmann wrestled with himself for a long time about whether to buy the business. In 2008, KPM was facing bankruptcy. The company was offered to him as a born and bred Berliner who loved his hometown and had plenty of money. KPM's name was laden with tradition. Several kings had owned it. But from an economic standpoint, the company has almost always been a bit of a worry.
When I first walked through here, I have to say my jaw dropped in awe of its history. That's when I became aware of the great effort that has to be expended to achieve this fine art. I did have to think long and hard about taking it on.
Woltmann invested in marketing, for example, in the showroom at the company's Berlin headquarters. The idea was to display the more expensive pieces prominently in order to boost sales. Some of them cost several thousand euros. More showrooms are currently being set up abroad. And this is where Jörg Woltmann earned the money to save KPM, his own bank. The bank is unique in Germany. It's open only to public sector employees. Its customers usually get loans at better rates here than at other banks. Woltmann got the idea for it a good 30 years ago.
Back then I was 32, and nowadays I always tell myself jokingly that I'm glad I was naive enough to do it. We had a sound business concept. It was checked and approved by the regulatory authorities. Of course, it's not easy founding a bank like this and running it successfully.
In addition to loans, his bank provides only check and savings accounts. During the global financial crisis, the lack of investment in risky securities meant there were no losses.
That certainly has to do with the principles I have as an entrepreneur. I always say I'd never buy securities I didn't understand, and I don't sell them to my customers.
The bank made him a millionaire. Woltmann is passionate in his love for his hometown. He says he'd never want to live anywhere else, especially now.
The most exciting thing in life is change. When a building is built on your street, you drive past it every day and see how the work's coming along. When it's finished, you either like it or you don't. And that's Berlin. There's a new situation every day, and that's extremely exciting.
Once a month, he attends a Lions Club meeting at the Adlon Hotel. The club's members are well off, but much of its focus is on raising money for charity. Woltmann knows how much good luck he's had in his life, and he wants to help others in return.
My mother raised me and my brother on her own. I was given a lot of love. And I know that many people lack affection and never see the sunny side of life.
Woltmann will be one of the first to leave today. Tomorrow he has to get to the bank early before heading to KPM. It's a true labor of love.
And that's it for now. From all of us here in Berlin, thanks for watching and see you again soon.